What was that transition like for you though? Like being a background singer, and I know we've talked about this off the camera before, but just all of the things that you said like resonated with me so deeply. So I'm saying it again.
Let's go.
But how was that transition for you, supporting other artists, or even as a songwriter too?
Yeah.
You know, like your role was to support, and then making that transition into solidifying yourself as your own artist. What was that like for you? And is there anything that you still struggle with in that transition?
It was tough. I think songwriting was a little easier because it sucks. They're so synonymous, but songwriting is easier because the songwriter is in the back, like the background. Songwriters don't really get credit, so it's easy to bring you on the right songs and like allow you to do certain stuff because you're not the front of this, so that does not cut into my light or my shine. That's how a lot of people would, kind of see it. And so I've had some great contrast from that, and also been able to work with some amazing people that I was, singing background with, who's recognized my gift as a songwriter, like Tyrese, Justin Timberlake. Like, these are people that I toured with first as a singer, and like found out I could do this other stuff, and was like willing to give me a chance to do it, because in our industry, like, artists don't mix that.
The way they meet you is the way that they box you in a lot of times.
100%. And so it was an interesting transition, not just for other people, but for myself as well, because it was like a challenge to myself to make sure I was really who I was saying I wanted to be. When you're presented with situations that still look cool and you're trying to focus 100% on you, you're like, man, I could do it, but you gotta be careful about how you're being portrayed, because that'll make other people think you're not serious about what you're doing. So I've had plenty of times where I've like suffered in silence because I'm like, I really want to do this, but I can't do it because I'm sticking to trying to rebrand myself. And if you think that this is a door that's still open, you won't take me seriously on this end. And so it was a lot of that, and a lot of like dealing with people in our industry who also tried these same efforts and weren't successful at it. And they look at you like they're not really happy for what you're doing.
Wait, what do you mean now? Oh, they were background singers and transitioned into artistry, you mean?
Or just try to get into other spaces and expand. And so specifically with like, you have other singers, I've seen it happen where it's like they're not really happy to see you now branching out and doing other stuff, because these are things that they wanted to do, or maybe they tried and the opportunity didn't get extended the same way. And then you deal with figuring out if you did something wrong because you're like, I'm just doing what I love to do. Like, so it's a lot of mixed feelings, I think, with everything. And so it just led me to figure everything out like on my own.
Did you like struggle with shrinking yourself as a result of coming from someone who played the role of supporting others?
100%. Especially walking in writing sessions. That's where writing got tricky, because you walk into writing sessions and you have artists there, but you have producers there who know who you are as an artist. And so you walk in, they're like, oh my God, I love your music. And you're like, oh, don't say that. Cause
you think it would be an issue?
It can't. I've seen it be an issue.
Really? How?
A lot of artists don't, they only want to be the highlight in the room. And so I've experienced that, where I've walked in a room and somebody has given me what they consider too much credit. And it's like, this is my room. This is my space. Like, don't.
Ego.
Yeah. So it's that kind of got tricky, and I've watched myself like shrink myself in a lot of those positions.
Yeah.
The first gig I was ever in my life fired from as a background singer, first and only actually. I was working with this artist, and the reason she let me go was because, so we did a show, and some other artists that I worked with before, who I'm still cool with, they were on the show, and she was saying how much she loved them, and I was like, oh, I'll introduce them to you, like, because she she's just saying it like on the side. Man, by the time I got back to the airport the next day, I had got a text like, oh, we're going to go in a different direction. Come to find out, she didn't like that.
They already knew.
Yeah, and like that I had actual history in the industry. Like, she needed to be the person. Like, don't dare know more than I know, or don't, like, you know, and that stuff like that made me like insecure. It made me feel like, oh, I don't ever want anybody to feel like, you know, I'm coming here and trying to like take over what you're doing. I'm not gonna even tell you what else I do, who I know, who I work with. Like, this is,
Dang, you
like,
feel like you gotta
you know?
do all that?
That's what it put me in that space. And so
To feel like that's what you had to do.
to feel like that's what I had to do. So I did find myself like shrinking myself, and it was an insecurity, and I was only shrinking because I'm like, I don't want anybody to think that I think I'm better than them, or like more, or I have more to offer, you know. So it was now on the other side of that, go to hell. But
Respectfully.
yeah. But it's like in that moment, especially when you aren't 100% focused on yourself,
Yeah.
there's a huge insecurity there, because that's also your support. And it's like, I can't mess this up.